I want to share with you a story about King Solomon. This is not a story that you're going to find in the Bible, but it's a part of Jewish folklore, and this story has been transmitted verbally for hundreds and hundreds of years. King Solomon had a wise sage in his court. This man thought that he was the bomb.com. Now, Solomon wouldn't have used that language. That's more modern day. But this man thought that he was just the smartest cookie in the box. And so Solomon, seeking to humble his wise servant, said, hey, we have this festival called Sukkot that's coming up in 6 months, and I need you to do something. Only the wisest of the wise man can do this task. Are you up for it? Yeah, I'm up for it. He said, all right, this is what I want you to do. I want you to go throughout my entire kingdom, and it's a big kingdom. And I want you to ask everybody that you can find, pull all the wise people that you can find together, and I want you to come up with one phrase that will span the test of time, one phrase that will always be true, a phrase that can make a joyful man sad and a sad man joyful. Do you think you can do that for me? Well, yes, I'm the wisest of the wise men that you've got, King Solomon. Of course I can do this for you. Okay, and when you find it, I want you to find a ring with it inscribed on it. So it's something that's already out there. You just have to uncover it. Okay, that's going to be a little harder, but I can do it. I can do anything, King Solomon. Great. He set off to work. 6 months, he went high and low all over the kingdom, asking every wise person he could find, going to every jeweler that he could find, saying, I don't know how wise you are, but I know you own a jewelry store or whatever they had back then. Do you have a ring that has this saying that's timeless? And everybody just said, you're weird, go away. And so, that's my words again. So finally, it was the day before the festival, and this servant is beside himself. He doesn't want to let the king down in front of all that have come to gather and celebrate. And so in desperation, he walks into the poorest part of Jerusalem, and he finds a man rolling up his carpet at the end of the day. This elderly gentleman sells small wares to make a living. And he said, I'm desperate, and I don't know if you can help me, but you look wise. And you've got a great carpet here, and I see you have jewelry. King Solomon's looking for a phrase that will span all time, that can make a happy man sad and a sad man happy, and he wants it to be found on a ring. Do you have such a phrase? And the man got out a gold ring without saying a word and inscribed 3 Hebrew letters on it and handed it to the wise counsel from Solomon's court, and the man looked at it, and he smiled real big, and he left. The next day at the festival, all of Solomon's courts gathered around him, and all of the subjects are gathered around to celebrate the festival of Sukkot. And Solomon out loud calls the servant and says, did you complete the task that I sent you on? And all of the other wise men laughed because they knew what Solomon was doing, that there wasn't such a phrase to be found in the whole world. And the wise man picked out this ring from his pocket and hands it to Solomon, and Solomon's kind of jovial demeanor faded. And he realized when he read the inscription what it meant. 3 letters that stood for this too shall pass. And in that moment, the story goes, Solomon realized that all of his power and his riches and his fame would pass away, and that it wasn't going to endure forever. This phrase, this too shall pass, is one of these 6 blurred line phrases that we're looking at as a part of our sermon series. And last week we did God Wants You to Be Happy and found that it's about 10 years old, and it actually originated right here in the Houston area and has kind of taken American Christianity by storm. This week we're going to look at a phrase that's much older than that. It's a phrase that as far as I could trace it back, it's been around for at least 800 years, but is most likely even older than that. It's a phrase that's been a part of many cultures throughout the world and throughout the ages. So it's deeply rooted in humanity. There's some truth in it, but for us as people of Christian faith, there's also a blurred line because there's some untruth there that we need to uncover today. This phrase is thought to have originated in Muslim culture. Among some Muslim poets here, they were seeking a phrase like the same as it was imported into this Hebrew literature, a phrase that would be timeless, that could make a happy person sad and a sad person happy, and it was, this too shall pass. It's translated into Arabic and Turkish and Latin. And it was imported into English in the 19th century when a poet named Edward Fitzgerald included the fable in a publication of his works and didn't attribute it, funny enough. And so once again, it kind of popped onto the scene and took the world by storm. And in the 19th century here on American soil, Abraham Lincoln included this fable with an interpretation in a speech given 1 year before he became President of the United States at the Wisconsin State Fair. And the whole concept became a part of his platform as he ran for president. It was this: "This too shall pass." What a sad phrase to think that anything that's good in this life could ever end. So we should seek prosperity and goodness such that the world will never see the end of it until the earth passes away. So it was this: let's do away with everything bad and find only good. Right? God wants you to be happy. You can almost hear it coming back up here. And so for us as Christians, not only have we inherited in a religious sense through our commonalities with the Jewish faith, but we've also inherited it through an American democracy kind of way. It's a part of our culture and it's a part of our DNA as Americans. This too shall pass. The challenge for us as people of faith is that this phrase is not in the Bible anywhere. It's not quoted, it's not a proverb, it's not in the Gospels, it's not in the letters of Paul. This phrase is nowhere to be found. It's a proverb that culture created and has been circulated for over 800 years. So this is what I want to do today very briefly. I want to talk about what's untruthful about this phrase. I want to lift up the truth that can be found in it, and I want to leave us with something that we can say instead that bears a clearer witness to our Christian faith. And so here we go. This phrase has a glimmer of truth in it. I'm going to start here and then go to the untruth. That there are some situations in this life that will pass. If you find yourself in a temporary financial hardship, maybe you come across some other money and you're able to take care of that. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe you plan and you dig yourself out of it and it passes. Or maybe you found yourself sick and in the hospital, but your disease is cured and that passes and you can celebrate this too shall pass. Or maybe you're like me in my house and you've got a baby who's up every couple of hours and you think, well, one day this will pass and we'll be sleeping again through the night. Hallelujah, right? This too shall pass. So you hold into hope for those things, and in those particular circumstances, this phrase comes true. But it's not true in every circumstance, is it? You and I know this. There are some circumstances in this life that do not pass. They do not end. In my experience as a pastor journeying with many people going through grief, you never, ever get over losing a loved one or a good friend. You just never do it. You always have that grief in your heart. It changes, but there's always this space that opens up in your life that person filled that can never be filled by anything else, even somebody else. They can just be a companion for you, but it's never the same. So grief never really passes. It just becomes a part of you. So saying this too shall pass to a grieving person isn't all that helpful. In a way, it becomes an empty phrase. I'm going to tell you what's dangerous about that in just a moment. There's other situations in life that do not pass either. Some of us are born with disabilities, and they don't go away in that sense of the word. We learn to be empowered because of it. We learn to live victoriously through it. But to tell somebody with a disability, this too shall pass, obviously, it's an empty word, right? So this phrase is not true in all circumstances. And when you say it to somebody who's dealing with something that doesn't go away, it can be very detrimental to the faith. One of the lesser-known stories in our New Testament is a story about the Apostle Paul. And he describes a situation in his life, some kind of abnormality that he carried with him in his life and ministry that never went away. He called it a thorn. I have some roses in my side yard outside our kitchen window that they keep growing out of control, and I have to tie them up, and I keep getting jabbed by those thorns. Thorns hurt. I had one get embedded under my finger, the skin of my finger, and it took me over a week to get it out. I worked on it. It was terrible, terrible. It was a constant reminder. It was constantly painful, right? It reminded me that it was there. This is the situation that Paul describes. I want to share a passage with you from 2 Corinthians chapter 12, and I've got it on the screen here as we look at it together. This is Paul's words about this thorn. He says, "Therefore, in order to keep me from becoming conceited, I was given a thorn in my flesh, a messenger of Satan to torment me. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me. But God said to me, 'My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore I will boast all the more gladly in my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties. For when I am weak, I am strong. Paul begged and pleaded with the Lord to take whatever this was that tormented him, that created trouble and hardship in his life away. He prayed, God, take this thorn from my side. Do away with this. But in prayer, God answered, and he said, Paul, my grace is sufficient for you. You can live life with this thorn because my strength is made manifest in your weakness. And so Paul learned through journeying with the Lord and continuing to place his faith and trust in God that he could live and glorify God through this weakness, this hardship that would not pass. And others could see that, and Paul could say, you see that? That didn't come from me. That's the power of God at work. I'm only a vessel, a weak human being. Jesus told us in John 16:33 that in this world there will be trouble. And he even prayed in Luke 22, before he was arrested and went to the cross, he prayed, God, Father, if there's any way that this cup could pass from me, please take it away, but yet not my will, but yours be done. I mean, even this moment that Jesus knew that he lived to show people the love of God, and he was living to die, the one perfect and sufficient sacrifice to offer that which we could not offer for ourselves. But if there was just a chance that that could pass and that his life could continue, he offered that prayer to the Father. But we know the end of the story. There are some things in this life that will not pass. And when we offer this phrase to somebody in a well-meaning sort of way, we say it to be helpful and it doesn't pass. And I've seen the underside of this in counseling folks. When it doesn't go away, people begin to question, well, this thing is not going away. Does that mean that God doesn't love me like he loves everybody else? Because everybody else seems to have their trouble and hardship pass, but I don't. Does that mean that somehow I'm outside the will of God? And then people wander away from the very faith that can help them. That's the underbelly of the untruth in this phrase. And we've got to be aware of that when we're offering sympathy or support to somebody going through a very hard time. But, like all of our blurred line phrases, there is some truth in this passage that I have to lift up to you. That we know, as promised in the Scriptures, that there will be a day when everything that leads to sin and death is defeated forever. Revelation promises, and I lift this up almost every week in this series because it's so important, that there will be a day where there's no more death or mourning or crying or pain. All of that will pass away. But the promise isn't for this life. It's for the life to come. Let me read you the picture that the Apostle John gives us in Revelation 22, the very last chapter of our Bible. Listen to these words and try to get a picture of this in your head. Then the angel showed me the river of the water of life, as clear as crystal, flowing from the throne of God down the middle of the great street of the city. On each side of the river stood the tree of life, bearing 12 crops of fruit, yielding its fruit every month. And the leaves on the tree are for the healing of the nations. No longer will there be any curse. Let me read that again. No longer will there be any curse. Amen? Amen. The throne of God and of the Lamb will be in the city, and his servants will serve him. They will see his face, and his name will be on their foreheads. There will be no more night. There will be no need for light of a lamp or the light of the sun, for the Lord God will give them light, and they will reign forever and ever. Can't you hear the hallelujah chorus? And he shall reign. You know it? That's where it comes from, the very end of our scriptures. This is the promise that can be found in this too shall pass. The truth is that God has prepared a day when there will be no death or mourning or crying or pain. Do you hear the words? There's the tree of life with crops of fruit for the healing of the nations. There's the water of life, this clean, clear water that's provided for everybody. So the promise is no more curse. Sin and death will have been defeated. All of the things that cause strife and war, the things that we fight about here on this earth, will be gone, vanquished, eliminated, so that there will be peace and tranquility between all persons. The troubles of this life shall pass, but sometimes they will pass into eternity. But there is more. There's more to this truth. In John chapter 14, Jesus is getting ready to go to the cross, and he's preparing his disciples for the trouble that will await them afterwards. And this is the promise that Jesus gives his followers from John 14, 1 through 4. Do not let your hearts be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. My Father's house has many rooms. If it were not so, I would not have told you. But I am going to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you to be with me, that you may also be where I am. You know the way to the place I'm going. And Jesus follows that by saying, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. This is the second promise that can be found in this phrase, this too shall pass. That picture in Revelation that I read for you that the Apostle John gives, Jesus promises that those who follow him have a place prepared there when they get to eternity, that he himself has gone before us to prepare that place. So you see that promise? Even if we have trouble and hardship in this life, if we carry around grief, we have a thorn in our flesh, there's a place prepared in eternity where all of that will be gone. But there's more. I want to leave you with one more part of this promise. It's later in John 14, and this is what Jesus says. It's a hope that we can cling to in this life. He tells his followers this, if you love me, keep my commandments, and I will ask the Father, and he will give you another advocate to help you and to be with you forever, the Spirit of truth. The world cannot accept him because it neither sees him nor knows him, but you will know him, for he lives with you and will be in you. All of this I have spoken while still with you, but the advocate, the Holy Spirit, whom my Father will send in my name, will teach you all things and remind you of everything I said to you. Peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you. I do not give as the world gives. So do not let your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. Jesus doesn't promise that our troubles, our thorns, our hardship, our grief will pass away in this life because we still live in a fallen and broken world. Sin still persists, temptation still reigns, death is all around us, but you know what? He promises hope in the midst of all of that through the Holy Spirit. He says, if you love me and you keep my commands, my Father will send a power that will work within you and around you. He will send a power into your life and into your heart that can bring peace in the midst of your struggles, your pain, and your hardships. And he will surround you with a people called church that will be companions along the journey, that will continue to point you to the hope that awaits you in eternity. Dear friends, this too shall pass has some untruth and it has some truth. It's not truthful because every situation in this life won't pass. Some things we have to live with until our dying breath. But there is a promise that an eternity awaits where all that holds us down will be healed. And that we have the power to begin to live into that hope here and now. John Wesley, the founder of the Methodist movement, caught pneumonia in his 80s, and he was bedridden for several weeks. And as folks began to hear that he was nearing the end of his life, they began to gather around his bedside. And John was too weak to speak, but folks would sing hymns and read scriptures and tell stories. And one day, a couple of days before he died, he reared up enough strength to raise up in the bed and utter these words, and they were his last. He said, the best of all is that God is with us. The best of all is God is with us. These words were so profound for two reasons. One, this is a man that had struggled and had hardship and had followed the Spirit's leading throughout his whole life. He knew that there had never been a time that God was not with him. And he knew that as he was preparing to take the steps from life into eternity, that God would continue to be with him. And he was sure of the picture of the place that he was going, the place that Jesus had prepared for him. My friends, here's another phrase for us. This may not pass in this life, but know this, God is with us. This may not pass in this life, but know this, God is with us. And that's the best of all. I want to leave you with a passage that I would encourage you to commit to memory this week from 2 Corinthians 4. And this is what it says. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but what is unseen. Since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Let us pray. God, as we prepare to come to this table once again, a table that looks forward to the banquet that we'll enjoy into eternity, a table of your grace and love that reminds us that we can be forgiven of our sins and given strength for our journey. God, we give you thanks. We look back and see everything that you've done in our lives to bring healing and hope in the midst of our hardship and trouble. We look at all of the ways that you have worked in the lives of those who have come before us. And God, we look forward to the future knowing that you're going to continue to work as you always have. We thank you that your son Jesus gathered with his closest friends and followers the night that he was to be arrested, to go to the cross. And he gave them a hope that it persists to today. When he took bread, gave thanks to you, broke the bread, and gave it to his disciples, saying, "Take, eat. This is my body which is given for you. Do this in remembrance of me." And after supper he took the cup. He gave thanks to you and gave it to his disciples and said, "Drink from this, all of you, for this is my blood of the new covenant poured out for you and for many for the forgiveness of sins. As often as you drink it, remember me." And so, God, we remember that Jesus sends the Spirit into our midst to help us become one with him and one with each other and one in ministry to all the world. Help us to do this, Lord, until we feast together at the heavenly banquet. Through your Son, Jesus Christ, with the Holy Spirit and your holy church, we offer you all glory and honor and praise today, tomorrow, and forevermore. Now will you join me in the prayer that Jesus taught his disciples to pray? I've got the words on the screen here for our Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. I want to invite all of you